Good morning on this thankful Thursday, June 1st, 2023. We're going to go into everything happens for a reason. Remember to smile today, guys. Remember to smile. We're going to go into the section of the confidence game, but I'm going to read the tale of glory again. I'm going to review the tale of glory about a young lady named Carol. It was no accident that Carol talked about returning to caring about God and her religion the way she had when she was a kid. Did we walk away from God? Yeah, some of us done walked away from God. And it's like, but he's still there with you, even though you walked away. Here's a valuable tip. If you really don't know where home is for you, then think of yourself as somehow having left home a long time ago. Have some of us moved out from our parents or just left the city to change things that you think things change because you leave a city? No, you still, you some people make adapt better and some people don't. But home for you is that place you left. It's something from way back, maybe your childhood, when we all have the most intense feelings about being at home. Whatever happened to you liberated you from something so you could go back home. Some people go back home. I don't have a reason to go back home because our mom passed away in 2018. My stepdad, my brother's dad passed away in 2008. I mean, I have other family members there, but home is not home if you don't have mom. Here's another valuable tip for figuring out how what happened to you contains clues on how you can find your way home. Complete the following phrase. There's something missing in my life that would make all the difference. My sense of being at home in the world. It is what? What is missing? What is missing in your life? Do you know what's missing? God can tell you what's missing. Okay, now think about what you just said is missing. Think about how what happened to you gives you the chance to get it. Here, too, I've found that people discover again and again that they could only get what they needed to feel at home in the world by having gone through what they did. Think back, for example, to the great spiritual seekers and teachers in history. Okay? Let me fix this. This is one of my shirts I made. It says, not taking nobody's mess. Okay? That's what that says. So you can see. For most of them, their journey began when some calamity cast them into a dark night of the soul and liberated them so they can find what had been missing. What's missing in your life? Do you know what's missing? Take Brother Lawrence, the author of the great spiritual classic, The Practice of the Presence of God. His tale of woe was the only path to what turned into the tale of glory. This amounted to his feeling at home in the world in a way that perhaps few people ever have. Born in 1614, Wow, that's way back there. I wouldn't have thought about it. I was born in 1968, so no. Became a soldier at 18, served in the 30 Years' War, was captured, charged with being a spy, and almost hanged. He was released back into action. He witnessed many atrocities and was wounded in combat. After his military service, he became a servant, but he failed at this because he was so clumsy. Then he became a lay brother, the lower rank of the religious ladder in the Carmelite order. He worked in the kitchen, but then when he developed painful gout, he was forced to work in the loneliest of the shoe repair shop. He'd fallen as far as you can fall. He was alone, but he was alone with God. Sometimes we fall to the lowest of the low by choice of our choices and the decisions we make. But in the midst of it, God is still there. And that, without his realizing it, was the home his life had finally liberated him to find, along with God. At the bottom of the religious ladder, there was nothing for him to do but to talk to God. It was there that he developed his amazing ability to live intimately in the presence of God. Through his constant conversation with God, the book he wrote about how to do this has been a classic for more than 300 years. Vicky, Carol, Brother Lawrence were squirrels in the desert. Are you a squirrel in the desert out there in YouTube world? Out there in Columbus, Cleveland, in this world? Are you a squirrel in the desert? Perfect in their own way, but lost and troubled in another. Then, as happened in the cosmic kindergarten, they went through some difficult event that liberated them in a way that brought them home to themselves. They went through something difficult that liberated them in a way that brought them home to themselves. Now I'm going to read the confidence game. There's another way to think about feeling at home in the world. It's about a deep kind of inner confidence, not where you are in the world, but how you feel about being there. How do you feel about being there? Here's a story. If if you're the son of a grandson of an admiral and you go on to become a hotshot Navy pilot, it's easy to be filled with kind of cheap bravo about who you are and what you can do. You're the golden boy or the golden girl. You got it made in the shade. That's that was the position of Senator John McCain was in when he was a young man. You remember John McCain? This is who she's talking about. He was a high shot down over North Vietnam. He went on to spend 5.5 years as a prisoner of war, two of them in solitary confinement. He was tortured. He suffered the furthest psychological torture of being offered early release because of his family position. But he knew that he couldn't accept that offer. What is the meaning of an ordeal like that for a person like McCain? Life offered him a test. How many of us are being tested? Like Job. How many of us are being tested on a day-to-day basis? Tested at work, tested with your children, tested with your husband, tested with any family member, people, places. Life offered him a test. He hadn't been bred to pass, and he made it through it intact. He hung in there. He never did anything he was ashamed of. He survived. He'd helped his fellow prisoners. All this was a way for McCain to turn cheap bravado into the deep inner confidence that can only come from seeing what yourself have been able to do. McCain shows how an important part of feeling at home in the world is feeling deeply self confident. What we see with him is what we see over and over again. We may go through a difficult time, but just by coping with those difficulties, we develop a new level of confidence, trust in ourselves. As a result of that, develop a much greater sense of feeling at home in the world. This happens to a lot of people who don't even realize it. We miss it because we don't quite understand how confidence really works psychologically. It's not what you might think. Suppose you're not confident that you'll be able to make a speech or host a dinner party. I'm supposed to be a hostess, and I have the confidence, but I'm a little nervous, but that's okay. That means you suspect that what you bring to the activity won't be enough. The whole thing will be a disaster. So naturally, you'll wish what you don't have, an inner state where you feel utterly capable of being successful, knowing you'll deliver a great speech, imagining you'll be complimented for being a great host. But this isn't what it's actually like to be inside someone who is confident. Remember, confidence only means something when you're talking about a task that's difficult. If the task is easy, something like making toast, you wouldn't even use the word confident. It's easy to make a piece of toast. It would sound pretty weird to say, I'm very confident I'm going to be able to toast this slice of bread. If the task is easy, you just do it without thinking about it. Now, here's what the inner world of confident people is really like. They face difficult tasks. They don't think I'm going to be successful. They think I accept what I bring to this. I'm not going to be perfect. I might run into difficulties, but whatever happens, I'll find a way to cope. I'll keep working at it until things turn out good enough. I'm not going to worry about things I have no control over. I'll be okay, whatever happens. So, when it comes to things that are difficult, confidence is all about feeling at home. Deep in the heart of confidence is a shrug, not not a swagger. I'm going to read that again. Now, here's what the inner world of confident people is really like as they face difficult tasks. They don't think, I'm not going to be successful. They think, I accept what I'm bringing to this. They accept what they can bring. I'm not going to be perfect. I might run into some difficulties, but whatever happens, I'll find a way to cope. I'll keep working at it until things turn out good enough. I'm not going to worry about things I have no control over. I'll be okay, whatever happens. Next section. Look, and ye shall see. Look, and you shall see. Ultimately, cosmic kindergarten is just that, kindergarten. The gifts we receive are simple. Once we realize what we've got, the lessons that seem so hard when we were learning them seem so easy once we figured it all out. At least that's how most people describe it afterwards. At least that's how most people described it afterward. If the meaning of what happened to you is that there's a way for you to feel more at home in the world, but you're still not clear about exactly what that means for you, then I beg you, just look, be patient, keep looking. You have written the text with your life. If you read your life, you will understand the message the cosmos has been giving you throughout your life. If it's not clear at first, it will be if you keep looking. Here's two people whose stories illustrate this. My brother was a refuge kid, just like me, of course. He was 8 when we arrived in America. I was 4. It was tougher for him because he was older. It took him longer to learn English. He was short, skinny kid who had to figure out how to survive in our rough neighborhood. Plus, he was sick a lot. What could he do? Develop a tough exterior? This worked. Growing up on the mean streets of New York City, he joined the army, and when he came back, he became an excellent craftsman and a good businessman. But he still needed to find a way to feel at home in the world. Hmm. Then his first child was born sick and suffered and died. That was terrible. That was a terrible loss. But the universe is a place where everything happens for a reason. It took him a while, but he finally got to the point where he saw there was some redemption in his loss. Here's how he put it. When my son was born, so badly messed up, I spent months going to the hospital before he died. In that special unit, I saw all the other really sick babies too, and their parents who were going through what I was going through. And I didn't really give a damn about them. My attitude was, you've got your problems, I've got mine. But after my son died, it was just unbearable for me to think that my son's life and death had no meaning. Maybe it did have a maybe it did have an, any answer, but I kept looking. Oh, have maybe it did have meaning. Maybe he came here to teach me something. I didn't have any answers, but I kept looking. Then one day, this guy who worked for me was talking about his sister who had cancer, and he said, "Why did she have to suffer like this?" Those were the identical words I'd used about my son. Somehow, I realized that this guy was me. We were the same. There was no reason for me to think about him any different than the way I thought about myself. Suddenly, everyone in the world felt like my brother. I don't know how else to explain it. I'd seen that everyone's just coming out of some trouble or about to go into some trouble. Every time you look into someone's face, you're looking in the mirror. Remember, every time you look into someone's face, you're looking in the mirror. So that's the meaning my brother finally found. It took something terrible to show it to him, but it liberated him from his tough, closed off attitude. He saw that he was at home in the world in a way he never imagined. His sense that the world was filled with foreign faces jabbering in unknown tongues, which he is how he'd seen the world as a child, was transformed into the sense that the ways it mattered most, everyone was just like him. My brother seemingly very different from Cassandra, a young carefree woman whose family had lots of money. She was traveling with friends through Central America just looking for fun and adventure. She hooked up with the wrong people. The next thing she knew, she was in jail or some trumped up charges of anti government activity, inciting rebellion. Cassandra stayed there for months, not knowing if she ever get out. Cassandra wasn't tough at all. She was spoiled, if anything. So, of course, she fought against the idea that there could be anything of value for her in being thrown into Central American women's prison. But surprisingly quickly, she saw what it all meant, like a light bulb turning on. She's lucky too, because she might never have seen it. Here's what she said. All of all of those first weeks in that jail, everything was so disgusting, so scummy, and the guards were absolutely vicious, brutal to us. I kept thinking that things like this just don't happen to people like me. I don't belong here. These people belong here, but not me. One day I looked in the mirror and I was shocked at the hag I saw staring back at me. I was one of these people. We were the same. That's when I dropped my attitude and started making friends and doing favors and finding ways to communicate with the other women. The people that I had thought were the scum of the earth became my sisters. Sometimes they literally gave me the shirt off their back. Now, whenever I come in contact with people who get caught up in something terrible, I feel that they're me. The world is filled with my sisters. It's made me so much better person. Cassandra had grown up in a world of envy, competition, and social anxiety. The women in prison who seemed like alien creatures were the first people to make Cassandra feel she was part of the community and that the community was her home. This was even possible this was even possible. Cassandra's view of life. She vowed that when she got back to the world, never to lose sight of the vision that you're at home in the world because you're connected to everyone in some way. She stated the vision that you're at home in the world because you're connected to everyone in some way. I can't report that Cassandra went on to become an amazing humanitarian, but she did go on to become an artist, representative, and she brings a warmth and generosity to her work that makes her stand out. There you have it. A tough guy, a spoiled young woman, two different people responding to two very different events, coming from very different situations, backgrounds, using very different words, but they essentially got the same meaning for what happened to them because they both needed the same lesson and they found it because they were looking for it. If you known them before they went through their ordeals, you might have sensed they were cruising for a bruising and that life needed to teach them a lesson. You might have sensed what was missing in their development. Then something bad did happen. Mm. You might have sensed what was missing there. Then something bad did happen. And lo, life sent them to school and gave them what they were missing, a way to feel at home in the world. Did you get that? Yes. Inner the confidence game. Look and ye shall see. Everything happens for a reason. We will continue next Thursday on Thankful Thursday. Three gifts. Three gifts. Reason two, to help you totally accept yourself. Catch you next Thursday. Peace. And remember to smile.